Hello everybody, it's Tikios here. Today's video I'm going to try to do something slightly different than I normally do. I noticed there have been some people saying that they're having trouble finding guides for new players, and almost all the guides or videos seem to be designated toward older or veteran players or guys who kind of already know what they're doing. So I'm going to try to go through some tips for gearing for new players. And I am currently at the end of Season 2, so I'm going to have some heroes and some artifacts and some gear that are not available in Season 1. You don't have to mind that stuff. We'll just kind of go through and I'll try to specialize on things that are available in Season 1. Okay. This hero, Isitarian, I think I'm saying that right. He is a good damage dealer in the summon faction. So one thing I do want to talk about is players with attack, defense, and HP stats. As you can see right now, he doesn't have anything on him. So we're going to go through and take a look at some of the stats and how they work. We look at the chest piece first, because chest piece and gloves can have percentage on attack, HP, and defense, but the helmet and the sword cannot. So the chest piece, try to find a reasonable attack piece that we put on him. So for this, you can see some of these have a little bit of a lighter background and a darker background. The ones that are lighter have a plus at the end. They are only available in Season 2, so we're not going to worry about that for right now. But the ones that do not have a plus are available in Season 1. So we're going to go ahead and upgrade this guy real quick, just to see the difference. Attack percentage will add to his damage or attack total. Okay, we had some flat attack. Let's see if we can find one without the flat attack, just to make it easier. Okay. So we'll equip that piece. Just for simplicity's sake, I took away the attack, and you can see the attack percentage chest gives 847 extra attack on it. Now I'm showing you this to show what the difference will be if we do not use the attack percentage and we just use a flat attack piece. Okay, so it's 335, and as we go back to the flat attack, you can see I get an extra 512 attack from using the percentage attack instead of the flat attack. Okay, make sure everybody saw that clearly. And you don't need to worry about the other stats for now, because I'm showing just the attack for now. Attack 335 compared to attack percentage 847, 500 over 500 difference, or 500 increase. So whenever you're using damage dealers, you want to have the attack percentage chest, unless they are derivative. We'll come to that in a second, but for now, just realizing the difference between flat attack and attack percentage. Now I want to show something similar with a tank and the defense and HP. We'll go to Ice and Urion. So I was experimenting. I did not level his skills up, but for new players, I do suggest leveling his skills up. He is able to take down enemy shields with his battle skill, I believe. I can double check that. Yeah, deals 300% defense, cold damage to enemies within range, and dispels all their shields with a 75% chance of inflicting attack penalty too. And if you scroll him up, that 75% chance becomes 100% chance, and he dispels enemy shields. He is really good for Grave of Venom, which is one of the gear dungeons you need to farm. So he's a tank I recommend newer players building Okay, so this is something similar. We see we got a defense percentage piece, ancestral protection, 835 for him individually. Some tanks that have a different base defense will be different, but that's 835 for him, which is something that he is one of the tanks you should be looking to use. And if you're not, I suggest new players, joining a guild or alliance, because they do help get extra resources, extra characters. Okay. Now, flat attack defense is plus 335. 335, 335. We go back to defense percent. And again, it's an extra 500, some 531 for him in particular. So, just showing you the difference. You get over twice the bonus if you go with, well, I'm sorry, he has flat defense here. So, it's 499. Okay, this one's rounding to 500. So again, it's still over twice the benefit when you use a defense percentage piece. I'm going to show you something similar with HP percent if I can find it. Okay, so HP, that's an extra 24,000 based on HP percent. Now let's go to a flat HP. Well, that has an HP percent on it. Let's try to find a flat HP that does not have HP percent. Okay. So if I equip the flat HP instead of the percent, you see I'm going to lose 16,415. That's plus 7,000. Again, I'm going to gain an extra 16,000 if I equip the percentage. Okay. So now I think everybody sees the difference, how much the percentage pieces really make a positive difference, or a much greater gain than the flat HP. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words. I'm not always the most articulate person in the world. Now we're going to go to other damage dealers. We'll go back to Isitarian because he is a good damage dealer for the Necro faction, and he is a summon, which he can be pretty good in Season 1. So we're going to go through and just read abilities real quick. Summon at Star Battle summons Dragon Remnant to assist in combat. Alright, his battle skill is a 3x3 AoE. Attacks the enemy with the lowest HP, dealing AoE plus 20% attack necrotic damage centered on them. For each existing undead summon unit, Dragon Remnant performs one attack. One additional attack on the target up to 3 times. Additional attacks deal 120% attack necrotic damage. And his ultimate full board grants 25% attack and defense up to 2 undead summon units with the highest attack for 10 seconds. If Dragon Remnant has been defeated, resummons it. Okay. So there's nothing completely special about the way his abilities work. So we'll start. And Heart of the Gambler. When a wearer's attack triggers a critical hit, has a 35% chance of dealing an additional 130% attack physical damage. So this is a good set for some damage dealers, especially damage dealers that are going to do crit rate and you want them to scale with attack speed, like Dauntless heroes. This is real good for Dauntless. But we'll try to go through and build a set on that real quick. So this set, it shows you the increase in attack, but it does not have great stats, which we also want to use. So I go to this button to filter. We're going to go primary attack. And we're going to try to find crit rate and crit damage. And I have one one piece of chess piece in that has those stats. So we're going to equip that on him. Now we'll go to the artifact. So these ones with kind of a reddish background are, I think they're called a Mythic now. Most new players are going to not have this amount, so I'm going to come down here to, these are called Legendary. They used to be called Epic. But for damage dealers, like the Eyeball of the Giant is one that's pretty good. But if you remember, his ultimate skill doesn't really give damage. It just gives a bonus. So instead, we're going to come down here to something like the Horseshoe. We're going to upgrade this for damage dealer. And before I forget, when you get the first chance of getting one of these artifacts, the crown is what you want on a debuffer. I'm going to talk more about this later, but I just want to mention this one should be the first of these. I think we're calling them legendary artifacts now with the gold background. But all right, we'll come back. I'm going to talk about that more in a minute or a couple minutes. I'm going to do this one, and if people don't know, it does not matter if I use this resource or not. The same amount's going to get carried over, whether it's used in an item or not. So I can upgrade that. And when the wearer launches a basic attack, has a 20% chance of gaining plus 50% extra attack speed for 10 seconds. So this is also good for Dauntless. But we're also going to put it on him because I think his Dragon Remnant benefits from the attack speed. But I'm not 100% sure, but I think it does. And since this had crit damage on the artifact, I'm going to go with crit rate gloves. I kind of like to alternate the two. Okay, crit damage and accuracy. I'm not going to try to land debuffs with him, but okay. And looks like this one might be, and this is this up here. That is an Elemental Ascension, which once you know that, I'm sorry, how I do is I prioritize teams. So I did have it on Lelwanis. Lelwanis was a very good damage dealer for me in Season 1. So when I did it, there's a little button down here that gives you a bonus, and you can pick one element to give a bonus to the main stat. Actually, I can do it to the chess piece a while. Elemental Ascension. So if I go here, and these are things you get from deconning legendary pieces. I can do that in a minute just to show you. Since I'm going to put it on a Necrosis character, I'm going to choose Necrosis, and there's all the other elements on the side. So I get an extra attack bonus on top of what was there before. And now, okay, so this one, for instance, since it's flat attack, I already kind of told you guys, we do not want to upgrade the flat attack pieces. They're not good. So I can go to the sell button. Now I can either sell it for gold or for one of those resources that I just used to level up the chest for Elemental Ascension. So if I do that one, there you go. That's how I get those resources. Alright, back to gearing. Now, I have 2 pieces, so I'm at the 2-piece set, but we want to get one more piece for the 3-piece set. So we can go up to one of these guys here. And this is also something that I had already leveled up in Necrosis. And since I had a couple rolls into attack percent and crit damage, I went ahead and I tempered it, which is what that's for. So now, it's all kind of lit up. I have the 3-piece bonus. But what I do think I also want to show you guys is the Mythics. Well, I'll show that in a minute. But right now, we'll just put a 4th one on here. See what we have. See, I could put what I have in Lelwanis, 2 in crit damage. This is a pretty good roll. We'll just level this one up and pretend I don't have the other one. Okay, a little bit of crit damage. But like I said, if I was going to put it on team, this is the one I'd prefer. But we can go with this guy. So since we are trying to build him with some crit rate and crit damage, so we got crit rate here, we got crit damage. Chest piece for the crit characters, you want attack percentage as the main. So I did want to mention, I think I did earlier, the weapon is always going to have flat attack, so you're really just focusing on substats. The helmet, headgear is always going to have flat HP as the main stat, so again, you want to focus on the substats. Now for this one, I can kind of go through and show you. Elemental Ascension, again, we're going attack on necrosis, so we can go ahead and upgrade that. Gives us a flat bonus. And now I can temper a little bit. So tempering, the lowest one, lowest resource, 5 to 25, 15 to 35, 20 to 45. So I only want to temper when you know it's one of your strongest pieces that you're going to use. But since I'm at the end of the season, I can kind of use my resources to show you guys how it works. So the main one, it's 25 to 45. I got 35, which is a pretty good roll. We'll go one more time just to show you. So I can either save it and lose, or I can abandon, which is this resource up here. I'll go ahead and abandon it. I'll try again. Again, I lost, so I abandon. Lost, so I abandon. And I found that getting the top tier, like 45, is going to be rare. You can see these are kind of roughly the odds I see when I do it normally on my own. And there we got 145. Okay, so that's as good as I'm going to get. No more options. We'll just do 1 in defense percent to show you can go anywhere from a 4 to 8% increase. 6. So crit damage, 6 to 10. I got 6. And HP flat. That's all. This is also something where you're going to prefer the percentage substats over the flat substats, but you kind of, it's a little bit of RNG and luck. And of course, if you have more gear, the more options you have. And I already did this one because 2 in the crit damage is good for damage dealer, and a little bit of defense helps survive. A little bit of defense helps survive, even though I'd prefer 2 rolls into defense percent. That's okay. Sorry, got a little bit off track with the tempering, but we're going to go to the positive rune. And since we are building him with crit, main thing we're going to want is crit damage, and then we're going to see if we can get a little extra crit rate, see what we have. Again, Lelwanis. Maybe I'll just go and show her build in a second, but we'll go ahead with this one for now. Crit damage, crit rate. So 2 in the crit rate's pretty solid. HP percent doesn't hurt for survivability. We'll go over here. Go attack percentage, and let's see if we can get both crit rate and crit damage. Okay, I have one that does both. So my flat is 10 plus 77, so it's going to be 87% crit rate, which is pretty high, plus 251.6% crit damage. So that's pretty good, considering I could do just a little bit of tempering to increase stats a little bit, which I can go ahead and do that real quick again because I have some resources that I can spare now. We'll just go 1 in each. 6 to 10 in the middle with 8. 4, that one's pretty good for a first roll. Low extra attack, and we'll just throw the enlightenment. Even though he does not benefit from enlightenment, just do it anyway. So slightly better stats, goes up to 91% and 259. Okay, so that's just one idea of gearing. The other part that I didn't go through is you also want to put in a mythic piece when you can. Let's go to Lelwanis. And I do have her artifact that's crit damage. So let's go with a crit rate glove from the same set. Alright. So equipping that on him. And now instead of going Heart of the Gambler, we are going to look for a mythic piece to add on. And looks like these are the mythics. There's some of these mythics that don't have any number. They are going to be on the helmet or the weapon. The ones that have numbers by are able to put on the chest and the gloves. So they're split into two different categories. If you can put it on the helmet or weapon, you can put it on the other, you can switch. And then the chest and the gloves, you put it on either one of those spots. The type of artifact can go on either spots, but the individual artifact has to be on one or the other. So we're going to go with tech percentage. And let's see what we have. Let's say crit damage is more important. Alright, I'm going to come back to this piece that says Season 1. That is something I upgraded on my own. So, Precise Carnage is also the same as Strike the Unprepared. I don't know why they do two different names, but it's the same one. But this bonus, the wearer deals 30% increased damage to enemies under defense penalty. This is, in my opinion, the best mythic piece for damage dealers in Season 1. So we put that on her. If we wanted to go through, we can upgrade it just a little bit more. So again, Elemental Ascension, Necrosis. This is one slightly different than the other. This is what I used to upgrade the mythic pieces. I can, same way, if I had a mythic piece I wanted to decon, I can get more of those. I can show you that in a minute. Again, tempering. Just go through and I'll temper once each. Got lucky with 9. 25 is low end. Okay, 4. So for me, this would be pretty close to an end game build for my Lelwanis. Crit rate, so that's 86 plus 10, 96.5. Crit damage, 279.2. Lelwanis is one of the best damage dealers, which you could choose to pull on her banner, but she is kind of strong. She is probably the best for PvE battles in Season 1, so I think her is probably the #1 hero to prioritize when you're pulling heroes. Flora might be #2. Flora is the best for Vortex in Season 1. And for me, this set did work very good on Lelwanis in the Continental Challenges and the end boss. If some other people want to do differently, you could put other mythic pieces on, like her hands, her weapon, and her helmet. But this set, that combination worked well for me, but we'll take a minute and look at the other options for Lelwanis. Okay. Mark of Austerity. For every 10% current HP, the wearer uses, attack speed increases 15. This one did not seem to work great for me because you kind of have to stay at lower HP levels. You might be able to get use out of it for something like Dauntless, but I didn't think that was great. The one that I wanted to use on Lelwanis would have been the Imposing Presence, Emperor's Might. Actually, I did want to use the Gambler, but this would have been like the second choice, or I could have used this on somebody like Hvitar in PvP, which we'll go and do that. Nice. Hvitar. Okay, so sometimes I'd switch, gear different elements. I would have wanted ice to maximize it, but that's okay. And my PvP setup for somebody like her, we'll go back to Season 1. And talk about, this is the set I crafted in Season 1. So I chose chest because my damage dealers mostly were crit damage dealers. They had attack percentage, or I went with attack percentage because that's going to give me the most variety or flexibility for different damage dealers to use. And I just put all my rolls into crit damage. Could also crit rate, and defense and HP just for a little bit of survivability. This is how I did it, because if I have an artifact like crit rate, or for PvP, that's what I kind of use for PvE usually. For PvP and also Venom, where is it? I use this artifact, Darkthorn Claw, crit rate, and then it gives me, legend says this was, the wearer's attacks ignore shields on enemies. I'll let people read through this if they want, but since this ignores shields, this is really good for PvP and also for the Venom boss, dungeon boss, for helmets and weapon gear. Go back and crit damage. As I said, I had crit rate on the artifact, so I went crit damage here. That does not have a great roll, so what I'd want to do is crit rate, and then I go, do I have crit damage? Yes. So this is something I could swap in. Actually, I'm sorry, I did it backwards. I want crit damage and then crit rate, but I don't have any good sets for her for that combination. And then we'll go to a weapon. As we can see, the other basically gear sets that had 0 before now have a couple. I think for season 1, Chaos Symbiosis, this has crit rate and crit damage. For each ally at the same school present, the wearer's attack increases 6%. So that was one of the 2 I wanted in the top slot, and the other one would have been Fearless Challenge, also Violence Incarnate. So this has crit damage, crit rate. Put that in, and this one's bonus. The wearer deals 16% increased damage to enemies with HP higher than the hero by 50%. Going down here. Okay. And that was crit damage and some crit rate bonus. And we'll go to attack and see if I can get more crit damage. Oops, that's what I wanted, attack and crit damage on my negative rune, not on the positive. So if I was building just Hvitar and PvP, I'd do something like that, which I have a little bit more crit rate than I need. I have a little over 100, so that's, 4 of it's wasted, but that's okay. And then crit damage is close to, it's almost 300. With 4,008, almost 4,000, or a little over 4,800 attack. So, sorry, I'm just kind of talking through as I'm going through how I would level up the character, but I'm also getting a little bit sidetracked, going into the weeds a little bit. I hope this helping somebody. Next, I do need to show you a different type of damage dealer, because we've done crit damage dealers so far. So we will go with Flora. As I said, in season 1, she is probably her team is the best for Vortex. So right now I do have all Mythics on her. Do need something for that negative rune. We'll just go with something like this real quick to put on. So before you want to build her, you kind of want to look at the skills. It goes when an ally's wild dice roll is greater than or equal to 5, the familiar attacks the ally's current target 1 additional time, dealing 25% attack derivative fire damage. Flora gains 1 stack of insight up to 30 stacks. So insight, each stack of insight increases enlightenment by 2%. And why is enlightenment important on her? Derivative damage, a special damage type that is affected by enlightenment but cannot trigger critical hits. So you want to build enlightenment on her, but no crit. Some of the gear might have some crit as a substat. Sometimes you can't get around it, but you really want to focus on enlightenment and attack percentage where possible. So if I look at her gear, I actually currently do not have her exclusive artifact. That would be good to have, but instead I think this is the second best mythic artifact, the Queen's Fan. Gives you attack and attack percentage. And derivative damage dealt by the wearer gains a damage bonus based on the distance between the wearer and the enemy, increasing by, it's up to, you can level up to 70% per tile with the damage bonus capped at 5 tiles. So this is the best artifact for her if you do not have her exclusive. The second best for her if you do not have her exclusive is the, well, for the legendary ones, Vile Ink. And it says the wearer's attacks cannot trigger critical hits, which derivative damage is not going to critical hit anyway, so it's not a loss, but it does deal 35% more derivative damage. So this would be a good artifact for any other characters, not just Flora, but any other characters who deal derivative damage. The Vile Ink. Alright, back to some of her build. As I said, we're really looking at attack and enlightenment as the two main pieces. We have the flat stats, so I tried to focus on gear that would have enlightenment substat, and then I did temper it, and again substat enlightenment, and I tempered it for a different team for this one. I can't remember exactly why or what it was. Maybe I was just using Avelios or Procunte, and Procunte's in season 2, so you're not going to have to worry about him in season 1. But yeah, I was using this piece of gear on a different team I was prioritizing. So you'd probably want to put that as fire in season 1, but it does have 3 rolls into enlightenment, which is pretty good for a substat. Now, this is a season 2. The way I'll talk about this now real quick. Season 1 does not have to worry about it, but season 2, the plus on the end means it's a slightly higher base bonus, and you also get 5 rolls instead of 4. So this is one I crafted in season 2 for the enlightenment derivative damage dealers, and I just put all 5 into enlightenment to help boost that. And I'll talk a hair bit more about that in a minute. But again, I did want one piece to have the precise carnage, and I wanted enlightenment substats. Now, before for crit damage dealers, we went with attack on the stat. This time we're going for enlightenment on the main stat. And I tried to get attack percentage as a substat, but I didn't have great roll there, so I only have 1. We'll see what Procunte has. He is... okay, he doesn't have great. I think I went with resistance for the battle he was in. But yeah, you want enlightenment and attack percentage on the chest. So the positive rune is also enlightenment. So for enlightenment, you can get that from chest, positive rune, and sometimes from the artifact. Those are the 3 main spots. But back to positive rune, enlightenment, and I tried to get attack percentage in the substats. And for the negative rune, I went with attack flat, which they cannot have enlightenment as the main stat here, so it's attack and then enlightenment substat. Alright. So that's basically the idea of how to build Flora. Some people are going to be able to get some better stats because they had better gear than I did, but this is still the general idea. Enlightenment positive rune, enlightenment chest. You can either go with Queen's Fan or Vile Ink if you don't have enough for these artifacts or for the mythic artifacts. Eventually you want to get her exclusive artifact. That'll be better than what I have. And then attack percentage on gloves and enlightenment substats. Alright, and I think I did mention, I'll go real quick again for Lelwanis. You can get crit damage as a main stat on the positive, or on the positive rune, you can either go crit rate or crit damage on the gloves. You're going to want one of the two. And her exclusive artifact has crit damage, but if you went with another artifact that might have crit rate, then you could also kind of put crit damage on the gloves and switch that. But that's where you get most of her crit from, plus a little bit of bonus from substats. Alright, so this is going a little bit longer because I'm talking about individual heroes, but that's okay. We're going to go find a healer now. So a rare healer who was good for me early on was Hexandra. Just want to talk about her build real quick. So we're going to look at her skills to know how to build her. When healing allies with HP below 40%, the amount of healing is increased by 30%. Okay, so that's a nice little bonus. Her battle skill. Single target heals an ally by 150% attack, 1,500% enlightenment, and dispels one buff from them. And heals allies within range by 20% of target's max HP. So you're going to want to build her with a lot of HP, a little bit of defense, so she benefits from this, but then you're also going to want to build her with enlightenment. And we'll go and show you another character who also heals from enlightenment, which not everybody will have, I don't think. Let's see, Catherine. Yeah, so her passive, when the ally's HP is fully restored, 50% of the overflowing healing from the hero is converted into a shield for 10 seconds. So that's like a small version of the, can't remember what's called, the staff? Gatekeeper staff, yeah. Heals ally with the current HP by 15%, targets max HP 2,500% enlightenment. So that she is built, or she is a good build for hers with enlightenment. Build her with enlightenment. And she has a diamond-shaped ultimate. Heals allies within range by 15%, targets max HP, 2,500% enlightenment, and grants them debuff immunity for 10 seconds. So she, kind of similar to damage dealer, she's going to be one you're going to want to build her with a lot of enlightenment, and then also defense stats. So again, you'd want to go here, filter, enlightenment, and then figure out the set you want on her. And that's kind of how you go from there, and then you want defensive substats on her. Show you real quick a different healer who I actually used a good bit early on in my original season 1, Quarion. His skills grants a 10% target's max HP shield to the ally for 10 seconds and grants recovery over time for 10 seconds. And recovery over time restores 1.5% max HP every second. And heals all allies within range by 15%, targets max HP, and grants them defense up 2 for 10 seconds. So I'm showing you him. Also show you that not all healers are going to scale off enlightenment. He is purely scaling off of the target's max HP. So for him, I would just build him as tanky as you possibly can so he heals through as much as you possibly can. One other healer I want to show you guys real quick. Well, Garius. So I'm not sure why I didn't. Okay, he is scrolled up. Alright, he was real good before. He's still pretty good. When taking damage, the hero has a 50% chance to gain 1 stack of defense up permanently. This status is undispellable and can be stacked up to 30 stacks. The sub increases 2% defense, so 30 stacks of 2, that's 60% increase in defense. That's very good passive. Alright, deals 40% damage radiant to the enemy with a 100% chance of knocking up the target. Then grants hit recovery to himself. But the other one I did want to show you really is his ultimate. Dispels all debuffs from the hero, that's himself, and heals all allies by 500% defense. So you really want to stack him with as much defense as you possibly can, so that he has as big of heals as he possibly can get. So some heroes will heal off of their own enlightenment. Garius is healing off of his defense. Quarion was healing off the target's HP. So you can build all three differently. And another really good epic healer is Frubath, which we'll go to his battle skill real quick because this is really the healing. Generates healing nexus around the hero for 6 seconds, healing allies within range by 50% defense every 1 second. So again, you build him with defense. I'll go with, for people who are starting to get duplicates, since his battle skill is heal over time, the mythic artifact you could put on him is Solar King's Horn. When the wearer heals an ally, increases the ally's damage by, you can upgrade it to 5% for 10 seconds up to 3 stacks. So for healers who have heal over time, the Solar King's Horn is a good artifact to put on them to buff their allies' damage. For somebody like Garius, who had a burst heal or a big heal, Gatekeeper staff is good. Defense and skill haste. You have 100% of the overheal from the wearer will be equally converted into a shield. So any healer that has a big heal on their, especially on their ultimate, this is good for them. And earlier I talked about for the legendary mythic or legendary artifact, Crown of the Unclean is the first one you go for the defense penalty 1. The first mythic, unless it's somebody who's like an exclusive, but the first just regular mythic duplicate you get, a regular legendary hero, so you need a mythic artifact, you really want to get the Witch's Remains. When the wearer uses ultimate skill to deal damage to the enemy, there is a 60% chance of inflicting defense penalty 2 on the target for 10 seconds. Derivative damage won't trigger this effect, and defense penalty 2 can only be inflicted once per target by the skill cast of the ultimate. Okay. So that last part just means that some characters who had multiple hit ultimates could reapply it multiple times and get a longer effect, but it's now moved, it's just one time. So this is the first mythic artifact people should get from just a regular legendary hero. And then the next two, I already went. Gatekeeper staff is either second or third. It kind of varies depending on person and their account. But also Rift Hourglass is also either the second or the third artifact. So again, real quick, Witch's Remains number 1. Well, that's not it. That's Witch's Remains number 1, and then either Rift Hourglass or Gatekeeper staff as the second and third artifacts. Okay, this is actually going a lot longer than I was hoping. The last thing I do want to talk about is a little bit more about sets for team building. So most teams will have either 1 or 2 damage dealers in a mythic set, so you can get as much damage out of them as you can. I've already showed you some of those mythic pieces that I really like. Actually, there's one other thing I'll go back and show you, since I don't know if I specifically said it. But it's either for Flora or poison damage dealers also. Go to, it says Death Record or Enwinding Flesh. This set bonus, when the wearer deals derivative damage, marks the target to increase their derivative damage taken by 20% for 12 seconds. So this is good for derivative damage dealers. And you usually only need 1 of these per team. Depending, you could add a second character, but usually just 1. So that's good set to put on derivative damage dealers. Alright, now we'll go to more support type characters. So I don't have her fully set, but I did put these because these are the 3 most, in my opinion, 3 most important legendary sets for Season 1. Alright, so for this one, I don't have them leveled up because I just threw them on real quick as a reference. Ancestral Hood, the 3-piece set, decreases the wearer's damage taken by 10%, while 15% of other allies' damage taken is transferred to the wearer. Usually I put this on a tank. Sometimes you don't have to put on a tank, you can put on a healer who you build tanky, and this helps keep the team alive. And you want to build you want 3 pieces to get the 3-piece set. So that's one character who needs 3 pieces, and then they only have 1 slot for a mythic artifact. Okay, the next one. This is on either a support or an enabler type character. Like somebody who applies frost, like Lysenia, would be an enabler for Hvitar. So this one, when the wearer casts an ultimate skill, allies of the same element gain 10% ultimate energy. Any target can only gain this effect once within 15 seconds. So having a 3-piece of this set helps you cycle through your ultimates faster. On Vortex, this allows your damage dealers to have more ultimates during the 8 to 10 minute period, depending how long you last. More ultimates, more damage. On dungeons that the boss has an 18-second rotation, for his ultimate, having one character with this 3-piece set will allow your characters to go on an 18-second cycle also, without having to build them with enough skill haste and worry about getting enough skill haste. So one character on your team is going to want this set. Usually people put this on the character who they have use their ultimate last, but it does not have to be. So you got your tank in Ancestral Protection. You have another character in Puppeteer. Another character in 3 Ears Emblem. This one, 3-piece set, when the wearer casts an ultimate skill, all allies' elemental damage dealt increases by 15% for 10 seconds. Of course, increasing damage dealt is going to help you do more damage. That's pretty self-explanatory. A lot of people will put this on the character that kind of uses their ultimate first in a cycle. So if I had Frost, I would want someone like Lysenia, who deals frost damage, to use this. I'd use their ultimate. I'd have Witch's Remains, or if you don't have Witch's Remains, you can go to the Crown of the Unclean to apply defense down. They apply their debuffs. They grant their allies 15% damage bonus, and then I can have my big damage dealer like Hvitar going after her. So for PvE, those are 3 sets you want to have on almost every team once you get to endgame, like Continental Challenge and final end boss. The other set that I really want to talk about is really good for PvP and for Fey. I know Fey trips up a lot of people. This is the Holly Hunter set. And with this one, the 3-piece, when the wearer deals damage, has a 20% chance of inflicting stun to the target for 3 seconds. Now, if you notice, this is different than Witch's Remains because this does not say anything about only being inflicted 1 time per ultimate. So if you have characters that have multi-hit attacks, especially on the multi-hit AoE attacks, this can help stun the enemies and allow you to go through your abilities and keep them from doing their abilities, which is a very strong, again, in PvP and Fey. So I'm going to show a couple characters who I think this set's really strong on, a couple epic characters who were very good for me when I was first going through the game. Alright, we'll go with Lightning. This girl, Iola. We'll go. So single target fires 2 lightning orbs at the enemy, each dealing 200% attack lightning damage with a 500 or 50% chance of inflicting silence. So she has some CC herself, and her battle skill hits twice, but her ultimate is a diamond-shaped AoE. Summons lightning strike the target area 3 times. So she's really good with the stun set. You build her with accuracy, and then you can put your defense down artifact on her also. Then she can use CC to stun the target, attack down from her ultimate so they do less damage, and you put defense down on the enemies so that your allies can do more damage. So she to me, is a very strong epic support for new players who maybe don't have the perfect full legendary teams. Alright, we'll go another character. He's good. This guy, Zhar'loth. So it's a 3x3 square for his battle skill. Deals 380% attack necrotic damage to enemies within range and a 75% chance of inflicting recharge speed penalty for 5 seconds. So recharge speed penalty, the enemies recharge slower, less abilities, less damage for them. So ultimate, another diamond shape. Summons a prison at the designated location for 5 seconds, dealing 162% attack necrotic damage to enemies within range every 1 second for the duration of the prison. With a 35% chance of inflicting fear on enemies for 5 seconds, heals allies by 30% attack. At the meantime, each enemy hit by this skill increases the healing by 15%. So he's somebody else, since dealing AoE damage over time, you can put a defense down artifact on him, and you can put a stun set on him. And he CCs, heals your team, and puts defense down on the enemy. So he's very strong in my opinion for an epic. Again, another character I used a lot when I first went through Fey. And the last one, we'll go Voresh. So single target battle skill. Deals 120% cold attack to enemy 3 times when dealing damage, has 50% chance of debuffing 1 buff from them. So again, single target but 3 times. So if you put stun set on him, that's 3 chances of stunning the single target enemy. And then his ultimate, full board AoE, deals 180% attack cold 3 times to enemies with a 75% chance of inflicting buff prohibition. So full board AoE, multi-hit, you can put defense down artifact on him, you can put the stun set on him, and buff prohibition is real good against certain teams, like it's real good against rally, prevents the rally damage dealers from getting rally and do bonus damage. And then there's a couple bosses, not sure, Grave of Curse maybe, who having buff prohibition is really good. I can't remember if he will cleanse it or not before he gets his buffs though. But yeah, of course, with any damage dealer, if they don't get buffs to help increase their damage, they're going to do less damage. So he's also very strong for Fey for new players. Alright, this went a lot longer than I was planning on. Hopefully me going through and actually building a couple characters helped you guys. If you like this type of video and me trying to talk through some things, even though, like I said, I know I'm not the most articulate and sometimes I stumble over a few words, but if you like this kind of thing, you can like and subscribe my video. If you want me to try to explain something else, if the way I explain it makes sense, then you can ask about another specific topic in the comments, and I can try to go through that and explain it. Otherwise, thank anybody who watched the video, and thanks for sticking with me. Sorry if I rambled too long, but like I said, hopefully it made sense and helped somebody. Alright, that's it for this video. Take care, everybody. Good luck, and let me know if you have any questions.